afternoon, everybody. As you know, we have with us today John Holmes, who's the Undersecretary General for the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and the Emergency Relief Coordinator. We have about half an hour. He's available to brief you on his recent visit to the Middle East. So please, I'll give the floor to you straight away to save time.
Thank you very much, Martin. Let me just say, I'll say something about my Middle East visit last week, and then something briefly about the murder of aid workers in Pakistan yesterday, and a little bit about Haiti, and then we can talk about it, whichever of those issues, or maybe others that you like. First of all, on the visit to the Middle East last week, my main concern a year after, or just after a year, more than a year after the Operation Cast led in Gaza, was to go and look at the situation on the ground, again to see what had happened and what had not happened and since that operation, but also to look at the situation in East Jerusalem and the West Bank to see what progress is being made there, what the problems are there on the ground, to talk to the Israeli authorities, to talk to the Palestinian Authority about all those issues, which is what I spent my 4 or 5 days there doing. First of all, very briefly on Gaza, I mean, I think you're all aware of the situation. The blockade of Gaza continues as it has since June 2007. And although we've seen a little bit of progress at the margins in allowing 1 or 2 more categories of goods in, for example, glass to replace windows, which were smashed in the military operation last year, and that's welcome insofar as it goes. We haven't seen any significant change of policy about that blockade. So most construction materials are not allowed to enter Gaza, and this means that the process of reconstruction has hardly started. Even if there has been a certain amount of progress in cleaning up the rubble left by that military operation. So that's very frustrating. There are links that have been made with the fate of Corporal Shalit in Gaza. Obviously, we've called for the release of Corporal Shalit and that they should be treated in accordance with the Geneva Conventions, but that the link between that and the fate of the 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza does not seem to us a reasonable one. And therefore, we have called and continue to call, as the Secretary General has done very consistently in recent months, for the relaxation of this blockade on Gaza and the entry of goods in a normal way to allow reconstruction and to allow the Gazans to live something more like a normal life rather than the existence which they have at the moment. So that was the conclusions of my visit to Gaza. I discussed that with the Israeli authorities. And I hope that they will be enabling us at least to get on with some more of the projects in areas like water, sanitation, residential accommodation, which we have been pursuing for some time. But I say beyond that, our hope is that there will be there'll be a wider relaxation of the restrictions on entry of goods into Gaza, because that's what's needed. Of course, goods do get into Gaza through the illegal tunnels from Egypt. But part of the point about that is that the population of Gaza, most of the population of Gaza, cannot afford those goods in the shops because they have no livelihoods, and again that's linked to the wider blockade on Gaza. And of course the tunnels are encouraging a kind of illegal gangster economy, which I think is not in the longer-term interests of Gaza or indeed the longer-term interests of Israel. In East Jerusalem and the West Bank, the situation is also extremely concerning. I mean, quite apart from the latest announcements on that subject, there is pressure on the Palestinian community in East Jerusalem in different ways. I was able to visit some of the sites where you can see that, where there are proposals for redevelopment of areas where Palestinians are living, or where Palestinians who have been living there, refugees for some 60 years, are coming under pressure for all sorts of different reasons, but not least the kind of settlement expansion which has been going on there for some time. And of course we regard East Jerusalem as occupied territory, and therefore settlements are illegal there as they are anywhere else in the West Bank. In the West Bank itself, I was able to visit a part of the territory called Area C, which is where the Israelis exercise continuing military control, to see the effects on some of the Bedouin communities there, who are being squeezed in all sorts of different ways by different processes of the settlements, the continuing existence of the barrier and the expansion of the barrier, the wall, whatever you want to call it, and a process of evictions and demolitions of property there, which is, as I say, putting pressure on the Palestinians, Palestinian communities there. Of course, there have been some improvements in the West Bank. There have been some relaxations of movement restrictions between some of the main population centres, and that's, again, welcome, I think, and it is a useful contribution, hopefully, to social and economic development in the West Bank, but there are still many, many restrictions which are still there. And the concern there is that the continuing existence of these restrictions on the way the Palestinian community in the West Bank is allowed to live and to work those realities on the ground are not easy to square with the desirability of the talks and the desirability of the two-state solution, which has to be the result of those talks. And so I was drawing attention to that continuing disconnect between the realities on the ground and the solution which everybody wants to see and which the currently proposed talks are designed to achieve. So let me stop there, and we can say I'm happy to answer questions on my visit to Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory. Very briefly on aid workers in Pakistan. As you may have seen, there was a very appalling attack yesterday on aid workers working for World Vision International in northwest Pakistan. 6 their staff, their local staff, their Muslim staff were killed and several others injured by a cold-blooded attack. They were shot down in cold blood, and I just wanted to condemn that murder. It's not the first we've seen in Pakistan. You will recall, of course, there was an attack on the World Food Programme a few months ago, and this is part of a continuing pattern of assaults on humanitarian workers in Pakistan. So I just wanted to make clear that the Secretary-General and I both condemn that unreservedly and call for humanitarian workers in Pakistan, as elsewhere, who are simply there to help the people of Pakistan to be protected and not attacked in this way by whoever carried out that attack. I think it's not been claimed in this particular case. And thirdly, just a couple of words on Haiti and the relief operation there. We continue to try to scale up our efforts there. The main priority is still shelter, emergency shelter. We have now reached, I think, about something like 60% of the homeless population there, of about 1.2, 1.3 million with tents or tarpaulins. And the aim is to have reached everybody with that emergency shelter by the 1st of April. Beyond that, we have a strategy to try to encourage people who can return home if their homes are safe to do so, to decongest some of the more dangerous sites in Haiti onto other sites, either within Port-au-Prince where rubble has been cleared, or sites which have been identified around Port-au-Prince to where people can be resettled in safe circumstances. And in particular, what we're trying to do is to put transitional shelter on those sites. In other words, not just tents and tarpaulins or makeshift shelters, but more solidly built wooden and structures with galvanized iron roofs, which will then give better protection against the rainy season, and more particularly against the hurricane season when that starts later in the year. I think it starts officially in June. We're also making major efforts on the sanitation front. That's another major priority. But we still have some way to go there too. Another priority I just draw your attention to is on the agricultural side. We need to make sure that we get the right inputs into farmers in Haiti to make sure that they do not miss the planting season, which is essentially takes place in March, to make sure that even where people have not been affected directly by the earthquake, that they have the ability to cope with the extra strains caused by the earthquake, in addition, of course, to the more targeted food aid distributions which are now taking place.